Alright, this video I wanted to do a kind of show what poison arrow does. Um, I rarely see people use poison arrow. I've got a few people in my guild that use it, and I couldn't figure out why they were using it since nobody ever uses it. Um, but, I'm never one to just immediately disprove something or to put down something somebody else is doing unless I really test it out myself first, just to say, hey, is this thing really worth it or not? So I'm here in Nirvana Nightmare against the first boss. The reason I chose this area is he's got a lot of health, which means I can get a lot of good shots in. Um, he can't really kill me, so don't have to worry about him raging like I did in Sky Trail when I was doing the skill testing for all my skills. Um, and with as much health as he's got, I can really show the couple basic skills and then get a lot of shots with poison arrow. And so basically what we're going to be looking at is the damage each one does versus the cost of them, and then what the pros and cons of each might be. I was doing this testing in TOK Nightmare, and ultimately what it looked like was that poison arrow was doing about the same amount of damage with its first hit and all the 4 bleeds. It did about the same amount of damage as multi-shot. So what you're looking at as, multi-shot, when you have PvP, gives you rage back. Poison arrow costs you rage for the same amount of damage. So in that way, it's not worth it. However, the one positive aspect of poison arrow is that with bleeds, they can't get blocked, they can't get dodged. Whereas, with something like multi-shot or arrow strike or any of your other hits, you might shoot and it does 1 damage because you have illusion astral, or they deflect the damage back at you, or they get a good block in and it really nullifies the damage. But with a bleed like poison arrow has, it does a set amount of damage every single turn. It can't deflect back at you, it can't really hurt you. But the 2 big downsides of poison arrow are, one, that it actually costs you rage for not very much damage, and 2, that it can be purified. So that was getting really frustrating trying to test this in TOK Nightmare because there are 2 mages in there, and it seemed like every single time I used it, one of them was casting Fury. So it took a while of using nothing but arrow strike and poison arrow to do all 5 stages of TOK Nightmare. But from what I came up with from there, it's not worth it unless you are really afraid of someone getting a deflect, or somebody with really high block like a knight or something like that. Poison arrow might be worth it then, but still, I personally, I can't justify the cost of it. But I wanted to do it against something else with a lot of HP that is not player based, just to see how it might work in PvE. So here I am. Just to get a basic idea of what my basic damage is, I'll throw out some arrow strikes. So about 87,000 damage, 83,000. 88,000. So we're probably looking at an average of about 85,000 damage. Oh, that was a low one. Oh, yeah, the other thing I didn't think about with this was the resistance is going to throw everything off. So 85,000 with no resistances on. about 75,000 with the electro resistance up. Oops. Okay. So there's 27,000 damage, 20,000 bleed, so 80,000. Over 80,000 bleed. And if that had crit, it probably would have done a total with all of the bleeds around 120,000 damage. That one's around 110,000, still no crit. Looking at 130,000 damage now. Okay, now we'll start testing some multi-hits. Multi-shot. Around 93,000 damage. But he's got the resistance up. Wait till that's gone before I shoot that again. $125,000 damage. So what this is looking like is Poison Arrow does about the same amount of damage as your multi-shot. That was a hell of a low hit. Oh. No, that shouldn't affect that. Yeah, so it's looking like around 100, anywhere from 110 to 130,000 damage for Poison Arrow at the cost of 20 rage versus the same damage for 10 rage. So once again, just to kind of go over all of this, in my opinion, as an archer, Poison Arrow is not worth it. You're wasting rage, taking up a slot with something that could be a lot more useful. You could do the exact amount of damage pretty much with multi-shot. The only time you would really want to consider using Poison Arrow is if you're fighting something like a knight with a lot of physical defense, because then you'll still get a good bleed in on them. But even then, personally, I don't think I'll ever use Poison Arrow again after doing this testing of it. And now I'll just finish this off. I'm already done with Nirvana for the day, but so if there's other skills or anything you have questions about, let me know. you know, willing to test out anything. I'll try anything once. It's gotten me in trouble a lot in life, but anyway, if there's other stuff you want to see, let me know, and I will try to do whatever I can for you. Thanks for joining me.